So this is the story very briefly narrated by Narada to Valmiki. Valmiki was taken aback by the story. He was impressed. What a man Rama is. We may not be able to understand the depth of Rama by listening to this brief story, because we are not that mature as Valmiki. But Valmiki was mature enough. He was able to grasp what Narada was trying to tell him. And then after sending off Narada, Valmiki decides that this is the right time to go and do Sandhya Vandanam. So he goes to a nearby lake called as Tamasa. Only the name is Tamasa. It's as pure as water can get. Akardamamidam tirtham bharadvaja nishamaya ramaniyam prasannambu sanmanushya manoyatha. Valmiki says to his beloved Shishya, to his beloved disciple, O Bharadvaja, look at this water. It's as pure as a Sajjana's mind, as a Sajjana's hridaya. So he decides to take a shower. He takes up his clothes and all. He was about to enter into the water. He was enjoying the scenic beauty surrounding the Tamasa river. And at that same time, he listened to two crowncha birds sitting on a branch of a tree, singing happily with each other. And that unfortunate moment, an arrow came from nowhere. It shot the male bird. The male bird fell and it died. And that completely changed the emotion, the mood for Valmiki. He was devastated by it. He could not believe that this has happened. How can he shot a bird like this? And as soon as he saw that bird dead on the floor, with blood coming out of its body, he could not control his emotions. He was completely overrode by the emotion of that shoka, of that pain, of that misery of losing someone. That is called a shoka. Shoka is when we are separated by someone or separated from someone. That emotion is called a shoka. He was taken aback by that shoka, and out came the words, Ma nishada pratishtham tvam agamashashvati samaha yat krauncha mithunadekam avadhi kamamohitam. O hunter, may you not live long. May you not be prosperous in your life. Why? Because you have unnecessarily killed a bird without any reason. What was the need to kill that bird? Now, this entire episode has got a different significance. Many commentators are of the opinion that this actually is a representation, is a symbolic representation of the story that is about to happen. That male bird which was shot by an arrow and killed is no one but Ravana. Ravana was sitting with his wife Mandodari, and Nishada is actually Rama who shot an arrow. This is one version of a commentator, which you may appreciate or you may not appreciate. It's my duty to tell you everything that is there to know about this particular episode. This episode also holds a very important position in the study of Alankara Shastra, because they say that this is the first ever shloka to be written, to be said, Ma nishada pratishtham. They call this as the first ever poem written. Now, let's get back to the story. As soon as Valmiki uttered this shloka, he was again surprised. He was thinking, how come I have uttered these many words in a rhythm? It has got a rhythm to it. Ma nishada pratishtham tvam agamashashvati samaha. It has got a rhythm. Tantrilaya samanvitaha. He says that. It can be used for singing purposes. That's what he said. So finally, he was worried about it. He was thinking about it, and he looks to his disciple, to Bharadvaja, and he says that, did you observe? And the disciple said that, yes, master, I observed. And he learned that shloka as well. That disciple was a good one. He learned that shloka. And Valmiki was completely immersed in that shloka. The episode, the Krauncha episode, take a look at the turn of events that happened with Valmiki. First, he was narrated a beautiful story by Narada. He was completely into it. And later on, he saw a devastating circumstance. He saw an episode of a bird being killed. And then out of his mouth, uncontrollably, unknowingly, a shloka came out. And it was in meter. It was in a perfect manner. It was a proper shloka. And while he was thinking about all this, while he was about to process all these things, it has not yet sunk in. Not any one of it has yet sunk in. And then appears Brahma, the father of Narada. The man who narrated him the story, he was not enough. So Narada was not enough to initiate Valmiki. So Brahma took the task upon himself. Narada did a good job. I agree. Narada did a good job by narrating him the entire story of Ramayana briefly. But that's not enough to motivate that fellow. I have to go and motivate him. So how do you motivate a person? By making him distracted in the beginning. That's why the entire scenario of that Krauncha episode was created. It was a distraction to test the depth of Valmiki's emotions. Because to become a poet, you need to have the depth of emotion. So he passed the test, and we will see how he passed it with flying colors. So Brahma came to Valmiki's ashram. Valmiki offered him seat and everything, Arghya Padya, as usual, you know, how we welcome our guests. And afterwards, he made Brahma sat down. But he was not talking to Brahma actually. In his mind, the only thing that was running in Valmiki's mind was, how did I utter that shloka? Why did I say that shloka? Because those are the sages who had mastery over their words. They would not speak a single useless word. And yet, here is one person who has spoken something which was beyond his own control. So he was a bit taken aback. He was worried about it. So he was constantly thinking about it. And Lord Brahma smiled at him and said that, do not worry, Valmiki. All this happened because of me. I was the one who made this entire episode. Because I want to tell you something. I want to assign you to a particular task. Dharmatmano bhagavataha loke ramasya dhimataha. He says that this person Rama, whose story you just heard from my son Narada, he's nothing but a dharmatma. What do you mean by dharmatma? He's an epitome of dharma. Dharma eva atma yasya saha dharmatma. So he's a dharmatma, and you have to narrate his story. You have to tell his story to the world. And the story you are going to tell to the world, it is going to stay for a very long time. For how long is my story going to stay? So he said that this story that you are going to narrate is going to stay as long as there are mountains in this world, as long as the rivers don't run dry in this world. The story of Ramayana shall live on. Yavat sthasyanti girayah saritascha mahitale tavad Ramayana katha tvatkrita pracharishyati. What a great boon to have. Even the greatest ever poet needed to be initiated into this task. And he was given an assurance that you shall be like this. Your work will be legendary. Your work will be achandrarkasthai. It will stay as long as there are sun and moon in this world. So Valmiki decides that I am ready. He got motivated now. He is inspired now. And he says that this emotion, I had no idea that this emotion can turn itself into a shloka. So with this same variety of shloka, I shall use the same variety of shloka, and I shall narrate the story of Rama to this entire world. And Brahma also gave him some instructions. See, you cannot enhance a story that you have heard briefly without actually looking into the story completely. So you need to have a complete understanding of the story. How are we going to do that? He said that I will grant you another boon, an access which is mostly unavailable to others, which is not accessible to everybody. But for you, a special access. I am granting you a special access. Do you remember that Vishvarupa Darshana Yoga in Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord himself tells Arjuna that you cannot look at me with these two eyes that you have, that you go on about, that I have very beautiful eyes. They are useless. Divyam dadamite chakshahu pashyame yogam ishvaram. You need a special eye, my friend. Just like how Krishna gave Arjuna a special eye, in the same way, Brahma gave a special eye to Valmiki. The word special eye, this is all poetic. So poets don't speak in a direct tone. They always speak in indirect tone. So what does he mean when he says that I shall grant you access. It means that you will have access to all the unknown things, the things that were not narrated by Narada. You will know all those things. How will I know? Close your eyes. And thus begins the journey of Valmiki. What did he do? As soon as Brahma went away, he cleared his mind. He had only one goal in his life, to narrate the story of Rama. To begin any great work, we need darshana. We need to envision it. We need to see it. We need to feel it in our heart. So what he did was, prachinagreshu darbheshu. He put a darbhasana. He sat on it. He meditated. And whatever happened in Ramayana, whatever happened with Rama, everything was known to Valmiki. How? Just like if you hold a nellikai. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the word for nellikai in English. Amla, yes. Gooseberry. If you hold a gooseberry in the middle of your palm, you can actually view that 360 degree. It gives you a 360 degree view if you hold it properly, a gooseberry on the palm. That's why they say that Karathala. Even in Kannada, we use the word Karathala. That expression has come from Valmiki. So Valmiki, as soon as he meditated, he could see the entire thing that happened as it is, just like watching a gooseberry on his palm. And then again, he went on and he composed the great epic with 24,000 shlokas, spread across 7 kandas and split into 500 sargas. And then he was waiting for someone to execute it, to sing it, because it was composed. Unfortunately, today we don't have the parampara of singing Ramayana. The Ramayana was usually sung in those days. That is gone now. We don't have that parampara. Many people may try to introduce new raga and everything. They may try it on their own. They may bring their own innovations. But the originality in which Valmiki envisioned, it is lost. It's okay. At least we have one part of it left. It comprised 2 parts. One is the literary part. Another one is the singing part, composed part. Because he says that tantri laya samanvita. It could be easily fit into string instruments. If you use string instruments, you can actually sing Ramayana. That's what he says. All right. Ramayana was given, that the Upadesha of Ramayana was given to Lava and Kusha by Valmiki in 3 ways. The first one was Ramayana, the story of Rama, the path of Rama, the road of Rama. The second one was Sita Charitam. To all those people who think that Ramayana is anti-feminist, there is no Sita's version, Siyaka Ram. It's nothing new. It's not like Valmiki was unaware of this thing. He knew. He gave the version of Sitaya's Charitam as well. And also there is another version that is called as Paulastyavadham. Paulastyavadham means Ravanavadham, the death of Ravana. So it can be interpreted in 3 ways. The story of Ramayana can be interpreted in 3 ways. As the story of Rama, the path walked by Rama, Sita's destiny or Sita's Charitam. The third one is Ravanavadham. These are the 3 interpretations that are integrated in Ramayana itself. In one Ramayana, all these 3 are integrated. And finally, that day came when they had to present it to the conference of great sages, and they did. Every single sage present in that sabha, in that conference, they had tears in their eyes. He says that they were crying profusely after listening to the story of Ramayana composed by Valmiki and the way these 2 boys sang. They wanted to give something. They were so happy, the sages, they wanted to give something to these 2 boys. Somebody gave a kamandalu. He had only that thing. Somebody gave some kashtha, and he was carrying some kashtha, some few things for yajna and yaga. Somebody gave samit. Somebody was wearing a new cloth, and he gave it to Lava and Kusha. When you are most happy and when you feel like giving away something, you just give away something. You don't calculate. You don't worry about it. Somebody even gave away their kaupina. It's explained here. Why would they do it? Because they were not aware about themselves. They were not thinking about themselves. They were so immersed in that story. They felt so happy that they just wanted to give something. They wanted to appreciate Valmiki and Lava and Kusha. So they gave it. And then came the review. Param Kavina Madharam. The first one was Ascharyamitamakhyanam. This is a wonderful kavya, and this shall stand as a testimony. This shall stand as a testament to all the future poets. Anybody in future, at any given point of time, if they want to be a poet, if they want to read poetry, if they want to understand poetry, all they have to do is study Ramayana. If you don't know Ramayana, you can never understand what is poetry or what is any form of literature. That's how good Ramayana is. And as I said earlier, and then they were given the permission, Lava and Kusha were given the permission to sing it to the world. And they began singing it to the world. One fine day, Rama heard them. He brought them to his asthana and he asked them to narrate. They made a condition. They told Rama that you cannot step away when we are narrating the story. When we are singing, you cannot step away. You have to sit and you have to listen. And Rama was willing. And Rama made each and every person in his court to listen to them. And thus began the story of Ramayana. Now, here from where the story of Ramayana actually begins. So far, we have only known about the prologue, the bhumika, the pitika of Ramayana, how this epic came into this world. And now we will get into the story of Ramayana. The story of Ramayana, as always, as any story begins, it begins with the place. Where did this take place? Once upon a time. No. It's not about once upon a time. Sarva purvamiyam yesham. Every inch of this land once belonged to Manu, the Prajapati, the first ever Prajapati Manu. This entire world belonged to him. And he had plenty of children. He had many children. And amongst his children, one of them whose children's name we take even to this day, the oceans, Sagara. Who is the father of Sagaras? Sagaras were 60,000 in number. Sagara means the sons of Sagara. Sagara was a great king whose story we will narrate in the coming chapters. Sagara was a great king. He had 60,000 children. And they actually created this Sagara. They actually created the Samudra because they were finding something. What were they finding? We will see in the next sessions. And there was one more king in their lineage, in their family. And his name was Ikshvaku. He was also a great king. And to this family belongs a man named Dasharatha. He straightly comes to the point. Of course, there was Dilipa, there was Raghu, there was Aja, there was Bhagiratha. There were plenty of great stalwarts in that family. And Dasharatha was ruling this Ayodhya. How was this Ayodhya? He said that Ayodhya is a city, it's not a nation. So let us be very clear about it. Ayodhya is a city, not a nation. Ayodhya was the capital city of the nation called as Kosala. It belonged to the nation called as Kosala. And this was the capital city. It was built on the banks of river Sarayu. It spanned across 96 kilometers. Dashayojana Vistirnam. Dashacha Dvecha. Dwadasha Yojana Vistirnam. One yojana is approximately 15 kilometers. So approximately 8 to 15 kilometers. It differs from area to area. So this was the area that across which this entire city of Ayodhya was spread. It was beautiful. It was maintained well. It was always clean. Clean India. It was clean. It was always clean. And always decorated. A city must always be decorated. Otherwise, it's not a city. And it had huge buildings, skyscrapers. It's not new to any one particular city. It existed in almost every city. Even Kalidasa describes Ujjaini like that. Skyscrapers. And in the same way. Now, what is the next point that comes to our mind when we talk about a city? The people. They are the heart and soul of a city, isn't it? How are the people who resided in Dasharatha's Ayodhya, in that city? Every one of them, they followed their dharma. They followed their duties. There was not a single person who was not read, was not well read, who was not well behaved, who was not well dressed. Every single one of them were well dressed, well behaved, well mannered. The etiquettes, everything was so beautiful. Each and every one of them. He says that you cannot find a single man, even if you wanted, you cannot find a thief in the city of Ayodhya. That was how Ayodhya was. That is the state of Ayodhya. That's how beautiful Ayodhya was. And then to comprise everything, to make a summary of the people of Ayodhya, Valmiki uses a beautiful shloka where he says that Kshatram Brahmamukham Chasid. There are 4 varnas which you are all aware of: Brahma, Kshatra, Vaishya and Shudra. So when it comes to people, all of us, we get scared speaking about these 4 names, as though somebody will execute us at the moment we utter these 4 names. No, we don't have to worry about it, because this division does not only belong to humans, it belongs to the entire nature. Each and every particular particle that exists in this world can be classified into Brahma, Kshatra, Vaishya and Shudra. How does this system work? Do you know how beautiful this system is? Because it is based on the Bap of all darshanas, the Bap of all philosophies, Sankhya. Sankhya is the father of all darshanas. It is the Sankhya that gave the world Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And these Chaturvarnas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, are based on these 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. The combination, the permutation and combination of these 3 gunas result in Brahma, Kshatriya and Shudra. And how should it be? How should be an ideal city or an ideal society, how it should function? He says, Brahma, Kshatram Brahmamukham Chasi. Kshatram is execution, developing something. And everything that needs to be developed requires research, isn't it? That research is Brahma. Brahma and Kshatra, they go hand in hand. That's why you don't have a separate department called as research. Research department is different, development part is different. No, they go hand in hand, isn't it? That's why they call it in one term, R&D, research and development. Brahma Kshatram. This entire universe is ruled by Brahma Kshatram. We have not understood it, that's all. But that's how it is. And in order to execute, what do you need? You need facilitators, isn't it? You need finance. That is Vaishyaha Kshatra Manuvrata. You need funds. That is the part of Vaishya. If they don't do business, if they don't generate economy, then how are we supposed to work? How are we supposed to develop something? How are we supposed to research something? So you know the 3 pillars now: research, development and finance. Shudra Swakarma Nirata. What a beautiful line. Shudra means those, they all were indulged in their own work. The back end, the front end, application support. In the IT industry, they say these kind of words. The application support, the support faculty, they are the ones who actually run that software, isn't it? When a person does the research and he develops it and his job is done, he will be working on some other project. Who takes care of it every day? The people who work in front of laptop, who sit in front of the laptop and work. And that's how Shudras were. They were an integral part of society. There was no discrimination. There was nothing. I'm not saying that entire history is wrong. I'm not saying that none of them have, nobody discriminated them. Nobody did any atrocities against them. I'm not saying that. I'm not claiming that. Of course, there have been plenty of mistakes. Our ancestors have committed plenty of mistakes. So you don't ask for everybody's head just because you don't punish a child for the sins of his father, do you? You live in harmony. How do you live in harmony? By understanding the system, how it works. The city of Ayodhya had this system. Everybody indulged in their own work. Sarve swakarma nirata, swadharma nirata. That's how beautiful it was. Because it was so beautiful, it was easy for them to govern. Now comes the council. Every city needs a council, right? Just like BBMP or Mysore City Corporation, MCC. You require a council. What was that council? The council consisted of 8 ministers. Who were they? The first one was Drishti. His name was Drishti. I will send you the details if you are interested. I will send you the names as well in the later stages. Drishti, Jayanta, Vijaya, Surashtra, Rashtravardhana, Akopa, Dharmapala, and Sumantra. These were the 8 ministers. And then he had 2 guiding forces, 2 Purohitas, Vasishtha and Vamadeva. Even to this day, in our prayogas, in our Vaidika prayogas, they don't use the word Vasishtha alone. They always take the name of Vamadeva along with Vasishtha. Vasishtha Vamadeva Sadrisha Brahmana Maya Labdhaha. This is the line in Shraddha. Vasishtha and Vamadeva, they were the guiding forces of that city. And then there was another set of Purohitas who also worked as ministers. They were both ministers as well as Purohitas. Suyagnya, Jabali, Kashyapa, Gautama, Markandeya, Dirghayu, Katyayan. These 7 are again, they worked both as ministers as well as Purohitas. And each one of them, they understood policy making. They were well versed in Vedas and Shastras. They understood the pulse of the nation. They understood the pulse, the heart of people. They understood what the king wants, and they carried out his orders. They carried out his wishes, and they communicated. Nobody can speak directly to the king. You need a communicator, and these are the ones who usually communicated with people and the king as well. Now, this is how the city was set up. It was everything was going on hunky-dory, and then one fine day, Dasharatha had a problem. It was bothering him a lot. What could bother such a great person? He has everything. He is the king of a great nation. He has great counsel. His people are too good. He has no problem. He does not have to worry about internal enemies, external enemies. He doesn't have to worry about any of them because Ayodhya was free of it. Do you know what is the meaning of the word Ayodhya? Invincible. The word Ayodhya means invincible. It's a fort which can never be penetrated, whose walls can never be penetrated. Impregnable. That is called as Ayodhya. This is one meaning of the word Ayodhya. The word Ayodhya appears in Veda as well. Do you know what the Veda mantra says about Ayodhya? This body is called as Ayodhya. Our human body is known as Ayodhya. Ashta Chakra, Navadvara, Devanam Pur Ayodhya. The body that consists 8 chakras and 9 dwaras, Navarandhra, these two, you know the calculation? Ashta chakras and Navadwaras, Navarandhras. And they called it as Devanam Pur. This is a city of gods. This is a temple of gods. This body is a temple of gods. I think Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had said this. I don't remember the line, but I think he had said this. Where did this come from? This is what the Veda says. As I said, Ramayana is nothing but Vedartha. The essence of Veda is in Ramayana. So this Ayodhya represents our body. And you all know who is the king. The king stays in our heart, isn't it? Yes, this is Ayodhya. And what could possibly bother a king in such a beautiful city? He had no children. Dasharatha had no children, and it was eating him up. So he thought about it one day. He came up with a proposal. He presented in front of his council. He called up a council meeting. All the councillors were there, and in front of them, he proposed. He said that in order to take away the pain that I am experiencing of not having children, I have decided to perform an Ashwamedha Yaga. Only a great king can perform such a great yaga because it takes years together to perform that yaga. So the councillors were very happy. They all said, it's a great decision, my king. Please go ahead. So he gave the orders. He said, find a suitable place on the eastern banks of river Sarayu. Find a place where we can construct a huge Yajna Vedika. Everything was set. And he said that there should not be a single person in the city who goes to bed hungry. Everyone should have their stomach filled. So everybody should get food, and it should be free of cost. And there should not be a single person who comes from other cities as well. As long as the yaga goes on, everybody should be rich. You give whatever anybody wants, that should be given. You should never say no in a yaga. This was the order given by Dasharatha. Just imagine how affluent, how rich Dasharatha was, how rich our country was. And then after the council meeting, Sumantra was not only a minister, but he was also Dasharatha's best friend. So keeping his best friend's interest in mind, he went up to Dasharatha in private, because he could not speak this story. He could not narrate the story in public, in front of everybody. So he went to Dasharatha in private and he said that, my king, long ago I had heard a story narrated by none other than Sanat Kumara, the evergreen brahmachari of the quartet. Remember the quartet, the great quartet of our Itihasa? Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara, and Sanatana. This is the famous quartet. And one amongst them, Sanat Kumara, was once narrating a story where he said that Dasharatha will have 4 children. He will have 4 great sons. So all you need to do is, you have to bring Rishyashringa all the way from south to Ayodhya. You bring Rishyashringa and all your problems will be done. You will have what you seek. Now, who is this Rishyashringa? The legend of Rishyashringa. Those who are from Karnataka can be very proud, because this man, he was a resident of Karnataka. The great place where Adi Shankaracharya built his first matham, Sringeri. Sringeri is named after the sage Rishyashringa. He was the son of great sage called Vibhandaka. How good was Rishyashringa? Since birth, he had never seen any other person apart from his father. So, apparently, he did not know how to identify between a man and a woman. He did not know the difference between a man and a woman. There was only one other sage who had who never knew the difference between a man and a woman. Who was that other person? Shuka Brahma. There's a famous incident. The father and son, Shuka and Vyasa, they both were walking nearby a pond. All the ladies, when they saw Vyasa, they covered themselves. But when Shuka walked, he's younger. Shuka was a young fellow. But when Shuka Brahma walked, nobody even flinched. They were happy. Why? Because they know that this fellow doesn't differentiate between man and woman. Because he was so much immersed in Parabrahma. That was the case of Rishyashringa as well. He never knew what the world is, how the materialistic world works. So the plan was to bring Rishyashringa to Ayodhya. Why? Why Rishyashringa? Because once upon a time, there was a king called as Romapada. He was the king of Angadesha, somewhere near Orissa. He was the king of Angadesha. He was facing the worst drought in many years. His country was going through a bad famine, and he wanted to get rid of it. Somebody suggested him that you have to bring Rishyashringa to your city. The moment he steps in, he puts his foot on this land, the rains will come. So he did not know how to bring Rishyashringa. So he sent a commission, just like how these days we send a commission to some other country to bring someone. He sent a commission, Romapada. He sent a commission of dancers. So they went there and they were waiting for the opportune moment, because they cannot make themselves visible in front of Vibhandaka. So they were waiting for the opportune moment. As soon as Vibhandaka was away for a few hours, they presented themselves in front of Rishyashringa. Rishyashringa was very happy. Oh, what a pleasant surprise. We have so many guests today. So he said that, Asyatam, please be seated. And he offered them varieties of fruits and all the things that are available in the forest. They laughed at him. They said that, see, we have also brought some gifts to you. And they offered sweets, delicacies, various delicacies that they had brought from Angadesha. And he was surprised. He was very happy. Oh, I never tasted these things in my life, Rishyashringa said. See, if you are happy with this, why don't you come with us? See, you have offered us all these things, and we want to take you to our city as well. Allow us. He said, okay, fine. I will come with you. He was a childlike person. He did not differentiate. He did not know what their intentions was. So he went with them. The moment Rishyasringa stepped onto the land of Angadesha, it rained. It rained cats and dogs. It rained for 10 days, non-stop. Romapada was very happy. Now the news travels fast. Even in those days, without WhatsApp, the news traveled faster. Vibhandaka came to know his son was missing. He came to know the conspiracy. Who took him away from him? Who took his son away from him? So Romapada, this time, he did not send a commission. He went on the tour to the southern part of India. So he came to Vibhandaka Muni. He apologized. He said, this was necessary. Please forgive me. And in order to rectify it, he said, I want your association forever. What is the best way to make an association with anyone? Marriage. Romapada had a daughter. Her name was Shanta. So she was married to Rishyasringa. So this is the legend. This is the story of Rishyasringa. Now Sumantra narrated the entire story and told King Dasharatha, my king, all you need to do is bring Rishyasringa, your job will be done. If you want something to happen, then you hire the best minds available in the world. And the best available scientific mind in that time was Rishyasringa. So Dasharatha did not send anybody. He went himself. He went straight away to Angadesha. He reached Angadesha and he spoke to Romapada. He requested Romapada, please send your son-in-law. Romapada agreed. And Rishyasringa also agreed. Yes, I will accompany you. Thus came Rishyasringa to the great city of Ayodhya. Now, again, he called for a meeting. He called for another round of meeting. This time it was definite that we are going to do Ashwamedha Yaga. Everything was set. Vasishtha was given the charge of making all the arrangements. There is a beautiful conversation between Vasishtha and Sumantra. Vasishtha makes a list of guests. And he says that Mithiladhipati, the king of Mithila, Janaka, should be invited personally. Sumantra, you should go and invite him personally. You should bring him. You don't just invite a great Rajarshi like Janaka. You bring him. So every king was invited from every nook and corner of this world, because Ashwamedha is once in a lifetime thing. It does not happen every day. And Dasharatha was given the Diksha. Do you know how long the Diksha stood for? Even before beginning the Yaga, the Diksha was for 1 year, 1 whole year. Dasharatha was given the Diksha of Ashwamedha Yaga. So he took that Diksha, and at the end of 1 year, in the presence of all the great personalities, all the great kings and people, began the great Yajna of Ashwamedha. The 14th chapter, the 14th Sarga of Balakanda is a handbook, is an insight into the great Shastra of Mimamsa. The entire Mimamsa Shastra has been covered in 1 chapter, in the 14th chapter of Balakanda, where he explains, Valmiki explains each and everything that needs to be done in an Ashwamedha Yaga. And at the end of Ashwamedha Yaga, Dasharatha was very happy. He approaches Rishyasringa. Rishyasringa was pleased. So these were Rishyasringa's words. Rishyasringa says that Bhavishyanti Suta Rajan Chatvaraste Kulodvaha. Hey Rajan, O king, you will have 4 sons. Don't worry. This was the Ashirvadam given by Rishyasringa. And when a man like Rishyasringa speaks, that becomes truth. We speak the truth, they speak, full stop, that is the truth. There's a difference. Bhavabhuti in his Uttararam Charitam, he says that Laukikanam hi sadhunam artham vaganuvartate. We run behind meaning. It means we speak according to the meaning. We know the meaning, whatever meaning we know, we use the word accordingly. But great sages, they don't run behind the meaning. Rishinam punaradhyanam vacham arthonudhavati. They speak, the meaning follows. So Rishishringa has already spoken. At the end of Vishvamitra Yaga, Dasharatha approaches him again. He says, you have to get me those 4 sons. What am I supposed to do? What should I do now? He says that I will perform a putra kameshti. Ishti is a variety of yaga. He said that putra kameshti. So all the gods and goddesses were invited. Only when a sage like Rishishringa calls. See, when I call a god, the god doesn't respond because it's me. And he doesn't respond. When Rishishringa calls, or when somebody like Vishvamitra or Vasishtha calls, everybody will come. Nobody will miss. Nobody dare miss their call. That is the power of a sage. That is the greatness of a Brahmana. At their single call, a god should appear in front of them. And the gods appeared. The Congress was formed. The Congress means the Samuha of gods was formed. And they began discussing amongst themselves. Everybody was pointing out one old fellow. They were targeting him. Who is this old fellow? Lord Brahma. Hey Brahman, what did you do? You gave some boon to this fellow called as Ravana. And he has become a thorn to all of us. He does not let any one of us live peacefully. Such is our state that we are even scared. I mean, the great Lord Wind, Vayu, even he is scared when Ravana moves around. The sun does not burn anything because it might upset Ravana. Such is the terror of Ravana that we are upset with him. We can't do anything because you have given him a boon that nobody can destroy him. You have made him like that. You have changed his DNA that he cannot be destroyed by us. What should we do? So at that moment came Lord Vishnu as well. It's a congress. Every god has to be there. I said it's Rishishringa's call. So everybody has come there. So everybody approached Vishnu and asked him that, see, you have to do something because it's your job. It's not that, you are the only one that can do. It's your job. You are the Sthiti Karaka, right? You are the one responsible for maintaining this entire Srishti, entire creation. And this is your responsibility. Do it. So what should I do? He asked. Said that you have to be born as Dasharatha's son. We are in his yagam. We are in his Putra Kameshti Yaga. He wants 4 sons. And Ravana has a loophole. He had asked that he should not be destroyed by anybody except the human beings. So he did not consider human beings to be very strong people. So why don't you become a human? Why don't you take up a human form? Be the son of Dasharatha and kill him. Okay, agreed. The council meeting was adjourned. The gods' council meeting, the round table conference of the great congress was adjourned, and they all agreed, yes, Vishnu will be incarnated, will be born as Dasharatha's son. While this was going on, in Putra Kameshti Yaga, let us be practical. In Putra Kameshti Yaga, there appeared a great sight. A golden thing appeared from the fire, emerged from the fire. He was called as Prajapati Purusha. It appears so. And he had a payasam in his hand, and he offered it to Dasharatha. He said, your yaga is fulfilled, it's complete, it's done. So this is the prasadam. Why don't you take this and give it to your wives? He did not have a wife, he had wives. He had 3 of them. Now, Dasharatha took the payasam. He had some idea in his mind. He had some calculation in his mind. Very clever fellow. He divided that payasam into 2 halves. And he gave 1 half, the entire 1 half, to Kausalya. Because she was the Mahishi Arthat, the queen, the most important person, the queen. And in the remaining half, he again divided into 2 halves. And of that, he took the first half and he gave it to both Sumitra and Kaikeyi equally. Now the other half is also still remaining. Now he thought, what should I do with the other half? So he thought that I shall give it to Sumitra. So this is how Sumitra got 2 halves. And Kaikeyi got 1 half, and Kausalya also got 1 half. And all of them became pregnant. And on the fine day of Chaitra Masa, Shukla Paksha, and the Navami Tithi, when 5 planets were at their Uchasthanam, Graheshu Karkate Lagne, and in the auspicious Karkataka Lagnam, in the Punarvasu, when the moon was in Punarvasu Nakshatram, on this great day, Kausalya gave birth to Sri Rama in the auspicious Karkataka Lagna. And then this Kaikeyi gave birth to Bharata. Bharata was born in Pushya Nakshatram and in Meena Lagnam. And then on the auspicious nakshatra of Ashlesha, Sumitra gave birth to 2 children, Lakshmana and Shatrughna. Both were born in Ashlesha nakshatra and also in Karkataka Lagna. All these 4 children were named respectively as Rama, Bharata, Lakshmana and Shatrughna by none other than Vasishtha himself. Vasishtha was very happy. See, no childhood stories, because Rama is not about childhood. He is about the struggles of life. He is about dharma. So you can't find much dharma in a child. It's still growing. No? So all these 4 were trained in the combat. They were trained in Vedas and Shastras. Each and every one of them were well trained. And Lakshmana and Rama became very close. Lakshmana, Valmiki says that he would never eat if it was not with Rama. Such was the closeness that Lakshmana shared with Rama that he would not live even a single second without Rama. So everything was going on. It was fine. And Rama was still a young man, 14 or 15 years old. That's all. He was a boy, young boy. Kakapakshadharaha, he says that. Kakapakshadharaha means, it's like a crow's beard. A crow cannot grow a beard. So it's still only a few hair on his face. That's how young Rama was. And one fine day, there came a storm. And by storm, we do not mean the actual storm. There came a man who had changed the rules and regulations of this entire world. The only man to defy every single rule. The only man in the entire history of mankind who was able to change his DNA, who was a Kshatriya once upon a time and turned himself into a Brahmana. None other than Vishvamitra. As soon as Vishvamitra came, everybody in Ayodhya, especially in the court of Dasharatha, they were scared to death. Because Vishvamitra is famous for his anger. He may say something, we never know. He may curse us. He was the one who sent a man alive with this body to Swarga. He created another universe. He created another Swarga. Just look at the ability, the capability of Vishvamitra. Nobody wants to take a gamble with Vishvamitra. So when Vishvamitra came, Dasharatha went up to him. He did a Dirghadanda Namaskaram to Vishvamitra. He offered him a seat and he said, I am honored by your presence. I think today is my fortunate day that you are here in my city, in my home. I'm very blessed to have you. Give me an order. Anything you shall ask for, it shall be yours. He should not have said this. Those who know the story will feel for Dasharatha at this moment. He says that Karta chaham asheshena. Whatever you give me an order, I shall do it without asking a single question. You give me an order and it shall be done. Vishvamitra does not mince his words. He was right up to the job. He said that, Dasharatha, how are you? All the pleasantries are over. See, I am performing a yaga. I am doing a sadhana. And during that sadhana, I have a diksha which does not allow me to curse anybody. So I have to keep quiet during those days. It's a 10-day long anushtanam. And during these 10 days, there are two people, Maricha and Subahu, two evil brothers who are bothering me a lot for creating chaos in my anushtanam. So the offer is simple. Give me Rama. I want him to protect my anushtanam. Dasharatha was shell-shocked. What are you asking? How can you even ask me for my son? Do you know how long it took me to get a son? Do you know how difficult it was for me? How tough it was for me? After so many years, after so many penance, I've got a son. And of all these 4 sons, you are asking for Rama. He is the heart and soul of Dasharatha. How can you ask him? You know, Vishvamitra has his own ideas. He says that, see, even though your son is Kakapakshadharam, even though he's a small boy, you don't have to worry about him. Because I know him. Aham vedmi mahatmanam ramam satyaparakramam vasishthopi mahatejaha yeche me tapasisthitaha. How many people in this world can say this line, can say these words? Apart from the likes of Vishvamitra, I don't think any one of us qualify to say these words. Vishvamitra says, Aham vedmi mahatmanam ramam satyaparakramam. I know who Rama is. Not you. You may be his father. You may have given him birth. But you don't know anything. You know nothing, Dasharatha. I know who Rama is. Not just me. What do you have to trust? An old man's words? Ask your Purohita. Ask Vasishtha. He knows what Rama is. And also all these sages who are seated in this hall, they know what Rama is. Nobody else can know what Rama is. So, don't worry. He shall be protected by me. If he's protected by me, then why do you have to worry? Send him. This was the order given by Vishvamitra. But Dasharatha, as soon as he heard this, he fainted. He fell down from his chair. And then he counter-offered Vishvamitra, which is a wrong thing to do. You don't negotiate with people like Vishvamitra. You follow their orders, that's all. But Dasharatha dared to negotiate with Vishvamitra. He said, my lord, my son Rama is still a child. He doesn't understand warfare. He doesn't know how battles are won and lost. He is not trained in combat. So, to ward off the troublemakers that you are mentioning, I don't think Rama is capable enough. Now, why don't you tell me who are the people that are bothering you? Now, he said, there is one person called as Subahu and another one called as Maricha. Okay, I have heard of them. I have heard about them. But you have not heard everything about them, Vishvamitra said. Vishvamitra told him that these two are funded and provoked and trained by whom? None other than Ravana. The moment Dasharatha heard about Ravana, he was scared. He said, no, I cannot face Ravana on the battlefield. Why not? Because Ravana had a reputation of snatching away the opponent's courage when he stepped on the battlefield. The same thing is said about Vali as well. But there is no mention of such kind of words about Vali, but about Ravana, there is mention. Nahi shaktosmi sangrame sthatum tasya duratmana. I cannot stand in front of Ravana on the battlefield. So if they are funded by Ravana, then I shall bring my entire army. My whole army is at your disposal. I will stand in the front of my army and I will defend your Anushtanam. Please, don't ask to send Rama with you. This was the counter offer given by Dasharatha. Vishvamitra had an answer for this. I thought you were a man of your words. I took you for a king who belonged to the great family of Ikshvakus, Raghukulam. What is the nature of Raghukulam? Prana jai par vachana na jai. isn't it? Mithya pratignaha. I thought you belong to the family of these great kings. Raghavanam ayuktoyam. He said that this is not done. This is not done on the part of you. You belong to such a great family. You have given me your word that your order shall be done. And now you are taking a back foot. This is not done. So if this is how you want to work with me, if this is your final decision, then may you live a long life. I am going away. These were the words of Vishvamitra. But before that, he offered something else to him. Why don't you have a session with your Purohita? Why don't you ask Vasishtha's opinion? He will guide you. Is it right on your part to give your word and then not perform it? And then Vasishtha came to the rescue of his king Dasharatha. Vasishtha told that my king Vishvamitra is right. You cannot do this. You have given your word. You have to remain true to your word. So please send Rama with him. But again, Dasharatha is facing a dilemma. How can I send my only child, my only favorite child? Of course, he had 3 other sons, but Rama was his heart. How can I send him away? So don't worry. If Vishvamitra is asking, it means he wants to make him something. He will only make Rama a better version. So please send him. So everything was decided. Finally, Rama was sent with Vishvamitra. Now, as we all know, Rama is not a single word. Rama comes with buy one, get one offer. So if there is Rama, then there should be Lakshmana as well. So Lakshmana accompanied him. Rama and Lakshmana thus started their journey towards Vishvamitra's ashrama along with Vishvamitra. He was very happy. You have heard the famous shloka in the voice of the great M.S. Subbalakshmi, Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate. That is the shloka from Ramayana, from Valmiki's version of Ramayana. So they stayed in the night in a place, and then Vishvamitra wakes Rama and Lakshmana with such a fatherly love. Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Nara Shardula Kartavyam Daivamanhikam. These were the words spoken by Vishvamitra to Rama. He wakes up Rama. Rama and Lakshmana, they both do their daily routine, anushtanam and all. And afterwards, Vishvamitra calls them both, Rama and Lakshmana. He said, I want to give you a vidya. I want to give you a vidyopadesha, a rahasya upadesha. What is that? It is called as Bala and Atibala. Two great vidyas, Bala and Atibala. What does it do? Kshutpipasena te Rama bhavishyete narottam. You won't be bothered with hunger and thirst anymore. That is the power of this vidya. And the moment that vidya was given upadesha to Rama and Lakshmana, it became their own. Atmasat, we call it as Atmasat. They made it their own. We receive vidya, but to make it our own, we have to do plenty of anushtanams. But for Rama, it was just like this. He heard the vidya from Vishvamitra and it became his. And afterwards, they started their journey. Since hunger and thirst are not going to bother the boys, Rama and Lakshmana, now they started their journey. Now, they reached a place. That's a place where Sarayu and Ganga meet. Sarayu, the river Sarayu and the river Ganges, they meet at a place. And they reached that place. And there was a great ashrama. That ashrama was called as Ananga Ashrama. It was called as Ananga Ashrama because that was the place where Kamadeva's, Manmatha's ashes were brought after he was burnt to ashes by Parameshwara. So that's why that place came to be known as Ananga Ashrama. And they stayed there that night. And later on, they started their journey on a boat. Now Rama asked a question to Vishvamitra. Why is this sound? Where is this sound coming from? He said that this is the sound of two rivers merging, Sarayu and Ganga merging. So it creates a sound, and Rama was fascinated by that sound. And Vishvamitra says that this is the place where these two rivers meet, and uh, they they did namaskaram to that place, and they went ahead. On the banks of that Sangama, there was a forest, and that forest was called as Malada and Karusha, because it was in this forest that Indra was helped by sages to get rid of his Brahmahatya dosham. When did Indra get Brahmahatya dosham? When he killed Vritrasura. He was not an Asura. He was a Brahmana by birth. Vritra was a Brahmana by birth. So since Indra killed Vritrasura, he got the Brahmahatya dosham. And in order to leave that Brahmahatya dosham, he was summoned by the sages to this particular place. And hence, this particular place was called as Malada and Karusha. It was a great place until there was a demoness. There was an evil force working there. Nobody dared enter that forest. And who was that? Tataka. So Tataka was living there. Who is this Tataka? And we shall find out more about Tataka. And the first and foremost controversial issue of Ramayana will be dealt in the next session. Tataka Vadham. How can such a great man kill a woman? Is it even possible? I mean, how can you even fathom Rama killing a woman? We shall see in the next session.